Kinki Ink.
Hi, and I am your host, Shilly Nakedmoon of Kinki Ink, Erotic Stories. And we are here to rewrite the story of love and sex to bring cosmic bliss to the collective. And today is a very special first episode of the show, and I have a very special story for you. So this one is about a single lady, and she is in love with her boss, who she can't have. And it's Pisces Full Moon, and she's gonna have a bath. And yeah, it's called Siren Temple. So there's some pretty watery, special, wet surprises. So let's get started. I really hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for joining me. So it all happened on the night of the Pisces Full Moon. I prepared for my bath ritual in the usual manner. I swung the taps, allowing the rising steam to lull me into a dreamlike state. I threw in a generous splash of bath salts, scattered a handful of rose petals, and then, drifting through the milky haze in a semi-trance, I lit a few candles before slipping into my silk robe. Single on a Friday night again. I'd been swiping left on the dating app all week. I felt frustrated with the calibre of men that rudely dominated my phone screen. Being vegan, I didn't care much for a sausage fest. What's with the topless selfies? Come on, guys. I sighed, swirling the tub with my fingertips, and a wave of hopelessness washed over me. I peered into the tub. My nails were painted turquoise and they gleamed underwater, reminding me of wet pebbles glinting on the seashore. I had always been a water baby. My mum named me Ariel after she home birthed me in a paddling pool. My dad used to religiously send me and my sister off with a "May the flow be with you" every morning as he waved us off to school. A soft mewing brought me back to the present, and a warm, furry creature slinked around my ankle. Octopussy, my feline friend, was shy of the wet stuff but loved a fuss. We lived together in a one-bed, charming and cosy cottage near Dartmoor, in the southwest of England. He had kept me company since a heartbreak shook me to the core a few years ago. I hadn't met anyone serious since things fell apart with Jasper 3 years ago, and I couldn't be bothered to entertain dating boys. I wanted to meet a man. Seriously though, where is my King Poseidon, riding his chariot of white horses across the ocean to be with me? Trident soaring above the waves, he should be fighting epic battles with his rival Neptune and evading perilous pirate rascals in his ultimate devotion to me. Call me an idealist, but anything less than my god of the sea, and I can't be bothered. I'd worked hard to become an independent woman over the last few years, and I didn't need a man to complete me. I had a tight circle of girlfriends that I could always count on for coffee and a cocktail catch-up, and I enjoyed my job doing the social media and marketing for a local surfwear business. My life was pretty idyllic, really. But let's be honest, being a conscious woman, I also knew deep down that my heart was longing for a man to pierce my heart with his gaze, to undress me with his presence, and to ravish me open to heaven. I'd been single since turning 30 just 3 years ago, and in those last few years, I'd been binge reading about the law of attraction and manifestation techniques to attract my ideal man. I tried everything I could possibly get my hands on in the self-development world, I mean, I was a self-confessed spiritual growth junkie. I'd learnt how to do the pussy power walk to perfection, drank green goddess smoothies every morning with spirulina, spooned my vision board to sleep every single night, made peace with my coffee enemas, and did Ariel yoga every Thursday with my friend Rainbow Rob. I projectile vomited unicorns when drinking an intergalactic plant concoction in the Amazon jungle, learnt how to eat cake and perform fellatios simultaneously, could make men look like they were dying when they came, steamed my yoni with seaweed twice a day, and snorted Shakti for breakfast. I'd even come to a place of deep acceptance of my inability to accept myself. So, God, Goddess, Divine Source, if you are listening, then what's the hold up? I'm ready, like Uber drooling from my flower lips. Send me my beloved by Prime delivery immediately. I command you with the power of my pussy. Don't make me get all evil Ursula the Sea Witch on you. But back to reality. The only decent guy I knew around here was married, my boss Lucas. I had secretly been in love with him since starting work at Salt Wolf 3 years ago. He was not only seriously handsome, but the fact that he was a family man turned me on. He was always bringing his 2 young girls into work after school. They had golden heads of curls and angelic sun-kissed complexions just like their dad. I observed over the top of my computer screen as he lifted his 6-year-old Safi onto his knee, playfully stroking her hair and saying something that made her giggle. My heart melted. Lucas was tall and had a surface broad chest. His hair was shoulder length and wavy, sun-bleached to a sandy brown with honey hues. His facial hair exuded an effortless earthiness that most men made look groomed, and his light blue jeans and a V-neck sweater hinted at his athletic physique and defined torso. He also had a husky dog called Minky, who followed him everywhere around the office. I had wondered many times about whether there was something between me and Lucas. At least on my part, the attraction to him felt so strong that it often threatened to overwhelm me. Only last week, I was mid-conversation with him about the promotional material for the launch of our new wetsuit range, yet it seemed as if the eros in the space between us was a swirling tornado of bold and sensual brush strokes, creating a 3D painting of crimson and persimmon flames that licked at us in tantalizing motions. I wondered if it were truly possible that he could be oblivious to such a thing. It brought a tear to my thigh. He was always professional, although we often enjoyed a bit of playful banter together, and I knew he would agree that we shared the same quirky sense of humour. Curiously, I would often notice a twinkle in his eye when we laughed together. However, any hopes I might harbour were muted by the shining light that was his wife Shilly. She was a total babe, all sunshine and smiles. Without fail, she would arrive at the office after the school run, dressed in a super cute dress, looking barefaced and radiant, with no makeup, complete with her entourage of 2 kids. She always showed interest in me when she visited, so I was really rather fond of her, and felt guilty even for the existence of my feelings towards her husband. Perhaps there were mutually flirtatious moments between me and Lucas, but I was careful not to push the boundaries. I respected both of them and their relationship, plus he owned the company I worked at. Although, admittedly, the fact that he was my boss did seem to make the idea all the more enticing. Sometimes, late at night, I couldn't sleep because my body burned with an unrequited desire, and I wondered if they might be amenable to an open marriage. Was there a subtle way to find out if couples are open to polyamory? On the face of it, they seemed fairly straight-laced and picture perfect, so it seemed far too risky to breach the topic with Lucas. But I couldn't help wondering if maybe Shilly was so busy with 2 young kids and her own career as a magazine editor that perhaps his sex life was missing a certain shibaz. These days, realising that the bath was already overfull, I twiddled the taps shut and, taking a deep breath, I dunked my bare ass into the tub. Tingles ran up my spine, and inch by inch I lowered myself into the steaming cauldron. I let out a long, satisfying moan that echoed against the tiled walls. The burning liquid reached my neck level as I leant back, allowing the water to cascade over my breasts and belly until I was almost fully submerged. As the tension in my body melted away, I slipped into a peaceful place and glanced down at my torso. My mind stilled as I observed the coral peach shade of my nipples, and I watched the contours of my soft belly as it rose and fell with each breath. I massaged my neck with my fingertips, exhaling a deep sigh of pleasure. My mind wandered to thoughts of Lucas, and I imagined his ocean eyes pouring a stream of adoration into mine. My hands found their way along my collarbone, using feather-light touches, then travelled the circumference of my breasts in gentle circular strokes. I tugged my nipples gently, as if plucking periwinkle shells off the seashore. My breathing slowed and my eyes closed as I slid my hands down, brushing my pubic bone teasingly. I tickled my inner thigh, imagining that Lucas had pressed me against a wall in the office, his hand rising up under my skirt. My fingers traced the edges of the delicate folds of my flower and slid over my clitoris, causing a rush of energy to pulsate between my legs. My legs dropped open and I sank deeper into the water. My finger hovered around the entrance to my pussy as I clenched and relaxed the ring of muscles at the opening, creating waves of pleasurable sensation as I felt the water lapping at my flower lips. I fantasized about how Lucas would enter me with his sapphire eyes penetrating the unfathomable waters of my heart. The rhythmic motion of my finger inside of me soothed me into a deep state of relaxation. The warmth of the bath water had made my body feel heavy, and I felt as if I could enter the dream world at any moment. My mind emptied itself, and I had the sensation of floating in a great expanse of water. My limbs felt buoyant, and I heard the sound of muffled waves at the edges of my awareness. I wondered, where am I? And then golden sunlight began to drip through the crease of my eyelids. I heard seagulls calling above me, and opening my eyes, I was blinded by a bright light. Sitting up, I felt my hands touch wet sand, and the sensation of water gently swirled around my toes, whispering softly, swish, swish. I managed to open my eyes, first looking down at my legs and realising that I was perched on the shoreline, my feet being washed by the waves of the ocean. My skin felt warm under the sun, and I saw that I was wearing a bright turquoise cotton dress. The damp fabric clung to my nipples and inner thighs, and I noticed that I wasn't wearing any underwear. Then, with surprise, I saw a scarlet flourish of colour trailing over my right shoulder. And upon closer inspection, I saw that striking red locks reaching almost to my nipples were there. I'm pretty sure my hair is shoulder length and chocolate brown. I tousled my hair, musing over this discovery. A strange thought popped into my mind, like a bubble rising from the deep. Could this be a dream? I'm pretty sure my hair is not red, and it's rather mysterious that I don't even remember how I got to the beach. Recalling something that had been lurking in the cavern of my subconscious, I looked down at my hands, inspecting their intricate lines, my fingers and thumbs. I had heard of lucid dreaming and had read the first few chapters of a book that taught techniques in how to master the art. Yet, admittedly, I had given up rather quickly. I counted my fingers, checking they were all present and that I had no extra digits. Yep, 10 fingers, nothing weird there. But wait, my heart fluttered with excitement as I noticed a very peculiar detail right there in front of me. All 10 of my toes were present all right. I wiggled them curiously and my eyes widened, seeing that there was a small, stretchy piece of skin joining each toe to the next. Okay, Ariel, just relax. You have red hair and webbed feet. What the... I don't remember getting a part in The Little Mermaid. I remembered that it is crucial to stay relaxed in a lucid dream. Otherwise, one can wake themselves through sheer excitement. I breathed for a moment, attempting to focus on the horizon that glimmered in the distance before me. The sky was pristinely clear, and the golden sands stretched as far as the eye could see in both directions. I couldn't see another soul in sight. Feeling that I was enjoying myself now, basking in the sunshine, I contemplated what I could possibly do next. A smile crept over my lips as I realised the possibilities at the tips of my webbed toes. Putting on my sunglasses that had serendipitously appeared beside me on the beach, I fashioned a casual knot against my right hip, tying the damp edges of my dress and revealing my toned, bronzed legs. I meandered along the edge of the water, feeling the trickle of salt water sliding down the inside of my left leg. Sensing that I was no longer alone, I turned to gaze up at the strip of forest rising up from the white sands, spreading itself into lush green hills beyond. The landscape seemed ancient, yet familiar. I couldn't quite place it. I heard my name being called. The voice had the quality of a kite soaring in the breeze, and I felt the wind tickling at the nape of my neck, sending a shiver up my spine. Before I rotated my head, I already knew who was walking down from the forest trail to greet me. I smiled, turning to face him stroll across the sand towards me in long strides. He grinned as he approached. I saw he was barefoot and wore navy bathing shorts and a grey t-shirt. His cheeks were rosy from being outside under the sun. An electric current coursed in my veins as he advanced close enough to see his own reflection in my sunglasses. I removed my glasses and we paused to look at each other in a fresh light. So, I thought it would be nice to meet here. You know, get to know each other a bit away from work. He grinned some more at me. I thought I'd find you here. It's strange. I just knew you'd be here wearing that dress. You look beautiful, by the way. What you've done with your hair, it suits you. I blushed. Does Shilly know that you're here? No, she doesn't normally follow me into my dreams. I prefer it that way. We both laughed shyly. I like her a lot, by the way. She's an amazing woman. I know you do. So if she finds out, I'll tell her it was my dream. Deal? I shook his hand. It's a deal. I felt the soft warmth of his flesh against mine. Maintaining eye contact, he gestured for me to take his hand, and I accepted. We walked hand in hand towards the water. We stood for some time looking out at the glinting ripples on the horizon that reflected the brilliance of the solar god above. Without warning, he pulled his t-shirt over his head, revealing the soft glow of his smooth chest. I swooned and broke out in a sweat. Whew. I was only just recovering myself when he dropped his board shorts to the floor. His supple body beamed with an inner light that drew my eye gaze down. I swallowed, realizing that I was staring, and I raised my eyes swiftly to meet his. Do you want to join me for a swim? His eyes sparkled at me. I gulped, feeling naked under his gaze. I was suddenly very aware of the thin cotton of my dress barely concealing my pert pink nipples. Taking a breath, I remembered that I was dreaming. I tried to imagine that I was a Bond girl, and as elegantly as I could, I peeled my dress off, running my fingers through my voluptuous rouge tresses. I bathed my sumptuous breasts under the golden light of the sun. I knew his eyes were on me, exploring the peaks and valleys of my silhouette. My breasts felt juicy and full, and my hips swung lazily as I strode forwards into the water. I paused when the cool waters reached the tops of my thighs. The refreshing cold brought me relief, since I was convinced that my bum was visibly blushing under his gaze. Turning my head, I saw him, stood poised like a tiger at the edge of the shore, his sapphire eyes burning into my skin. I longed for his strong and tender caress, and I willed him to come for me. Facing the waves again, I dipped my fingertips into the waters, splashing my face and belly. I let the moisture glide off my body, adorning the hair between my legs with glistening diamante droplets. I took a sharp intake of breath as he came up behind me, his hand landing on my waist. He embraced me, and I leaned back into his arms in response, feeling his hair tickle my shoulder blade. I surrendered willingly to his firm touch, trembling with anticipation as he kissed my neck. He cupped my breasts in his hands, his heart pressed against my back. I turned to face him and drew him backwards into the water until I was paddling to stay afloat. He grabbed my waist, pulling me in close to kiss me. The kiss was passionate and wet. I wanted to wrap my legs around him and brush my clitoris against his skin. I attempted to lift myself up, but my legs seemed to not be operating as usual. Confused, I peered down into the sparkling clear waters, and I marvelled at the great mystery of what I beheld. My legs had shapeshifted into a peacock blue tail from the waist down. I was mesmerised by the scales that flashed metallic purple, glittering like sequins in the aquamarine crystal blue. The curve of my hips tapered down to a rainbow opalescent fin that swayed gently below me, moving in a rhythmic motion with the waves. Astonished, I reached out to touch Lucas's chest, and my hands moved down over his belly button until skin morphed into scales. His tail was silver with flecks of lapis lazuli blue. The casual swish of his fin made it seem as if he had always been a merman. Well, I guess we might have to get creative with this new physiology. He wrapped his hands around my sides, grasping the flesh where my butt cheeks would be. my tail flicked in secret delight. I pouted my lower lip playfully. I contemplated our physical conundrum and started singing a line from The Little Mermaid. Darling, it's better down where it's wetter, under the sea. My fin curled around his, hooking him in to kiss me. I felt his tongue inside my mouth. His muscular fin entwined in mine. We floated backwards until his weight pulled me under. We drifted down, spiraling our bodies, my hands clasped around his neck. My tail seemed to have a mind of its own, and I was able to maneuver myself quite naturally. Our kiss was long and timeless. We hung suspended in the vast expanse of ocean. I wondered vaguely when I might need to breathe again, and eventually we slowly parted lips. I opened my eyes to see my hair swirling vividly around us like blood-red tentacles. I watched as tiny bubbles perched on his top lip for a moment before climbing up to the surface. I was intrigued that neither of us needed to return to the surface for breath. Then I saw the gills on the side of his neck. My hand jerked to touch my own neck in a reflex reaction, and just under my chin I found soft flaps on either side. It creeped me out, but then, before I could think too much about it, he grabbed my hand and dragged me deeper down into the cobalt blue twinkly night star of the ocean. We swam through thick kelp forests where he tied and bound me, the silence whispering of all the things he wanted to do to me. In this murky green mysterious world, I found myself enraptured by a cluster of starfish who appeared like angels, adorning my body as if exquisite pieces of jewellery. Tiny fishes darted around us in the shadows, leaving innocent kisses on my skin as they foraged for food. We swam on through the Piscean underworld, the luminescent glow of the surface fading behind us. The darkness moved closer, and the water felt thick like treacle against my limbs. I felt a mystical power summoning us, and something lurked in the shadows beyond our sphere of visibility. My heart rate quickened, and I dug my nails into Lucas's palm. He too sensed an unknown presence, and tightened his grip on my wrist, pulling me in close. We hovered in the inky obscurity, glancing in all directions. From the darkness echoed a familiar yet ethereal sound. My fear dissolved into enchantment as two majestic dolphins emerged from the stillness and began to circle us, rolling joyfully as they passed each other. Lucas and I giggled delightedly, exhaling any tension we had been holding. We glided forward to greet these charming beings, and as we did so, they called to us in their otherworldly language, urging us to follow them. We glanced at each other inquisitively. Then, not wanting to lose the trail, we propelled ourselves forwards as fast as our fins could carry us. Diving down into the twilight blue, Lucas's form morphed into an indigo ghost that glided along beside me. Losing sight of the dolphins, I squinted around at the dimly lit terrain of rocks on the seabed. I noticed a milky orb that floated somewhere ahead, emanating pale silver rays that invited us closer. It was becoming increasingly difficult to orientate myself without any guiding illumination from the surface, and I began to feel dizzy, not able to determine if the white light was coming from below or above. As we slowed our pace, there was a whooshing noise, and I felt a slippery surface rise up beneath me that thrust me forward. Before I had time to know what was happening, I found myself soaring through the waters effortlessly. I held on tight with both hands, and then, cautiously opening my eyes, I understood with elation that I was riding a dolphin. It was a white-knuckle ride, but my heart felt free and expansive in a way that I had never experienced before. I turned to see Lucas sailing along beside me, travelling on the fin of the second dolphin, with a beaming smile that lit up his face. The sensation was like flying, and I felt ecstatic, bubbles of laughter rising up inside of me, awakening a full-body feeling of bliss. As we drew closer to the source of light, a creamy luminosity shone over Lucas's angelic features, and I desired his body to come closer. I reached out to him, connecting our fingertips, and my heart hummed with a tangible delight. The dolphin slipped away from us, leaving us hovering in awe of the shining spectacle before us. As our eyes adjusted to the dazzling glare, I beheld something of heart-aching beauty. We were drifting outside the mouth of a cave, set into a rock face. But it was not just any cave. The cavern was lined with a mind-blowing array of crystals that glistened and shimmered with life, beckoning us to enter. I led Lucas by the hand into the majestic opening, and as we crossed the threshold, I felt the energy of the crystals reverberate through my bones, shuddering the walls of my pussy into an ecstatic spasm. I looked into his eyes to see a translucent vulnerability shining forth. He studied my body with eyes full of a gentle innocence that I had never encountered in a man before. His sapphire coals pierced my skin, and I wanted him to penetrate me to the core. Our bellies touched softly, and electric convulsions juddered through my tail to the tip of my fin. "What do you want me to do?" he inquired with a simple purity. "Fuck me open to God." My pussy spoke for me. My intuition knew what to say. "How do I do that?" he pondered out loud. "I don't know. Show me." I spoke with conviction, but I didn't know where the words had surfaced from. He moved forwards to kiss me, and I felt as if I was falling forwards into his oceanic gaze, my body dissolving into a pool of light. My vision melted and everything changed to slow motion. The hauntingly beautiful song of the dolphins washed through my cells in sonic waves, and the crystals began to sing all around us, sending vibrations that rippled through my central column. A prism of light began to shine its rays through my being, activating the dark crevices with a pleasurable warmth that tingled in my pelvis and sacrum. My inner eye observed my yoni spiraling into an intergalactic kaleidoscope of colours, imploding into a divinely orchestrated mandala of peacock indigo, magenta purple and gold. I opened my eyes to see golden threads that flowed between us. From my yoni to Lucas's energetic sexual centre and between our hearts. He was poised in reverence, chin lowered and eyelids closed as if deep in prayer. Then, in the space between us, a magnificent clear quartz wand rose up, a phallic symbol of earth-shaking power. My hand trembled as I reached out to touch the crystalline stalagmite of the deep, and my entire being quivered with cosmic bliss. I felt an overwhelming urge to worship and even prostrate to this symbol of the divine masculine. Aquatic tears of pure love poured forth, offering gratitude from the highest aspect of my being. I felt a sweetness, knowing that my tears were being reunited with the great marine mother. Lucas embraced me like a precious pearl. His physical presence made me feel adored and cherished. As we slid our bodies gently against each other, I felt him enter me energetically as my yoni opened slowly to him, like a clamshell timidly unsealing its layer of protection. We undulated against each other, creating ripples of tranquility that cleansed our systems. I felt an ancient memory surface, a time when underwater civilizations lived in harmony with all sentient beings. I remembered the temples of the Sirens, the underwater caverns where the masculine and the feminine were worshipped and held sacred. I prayed with all my being for the wisdom of these times to be remembered, and as I did so, strange words came to me that I did not understand. I knew that I should carry these words back to the surface with me for all to witness, to rewrite the story of sexuality for humanity and all life on planet Earth. Gasping for breath, I sat up in the cold bath. It took me some time to reorientate myself. I stroked my legs and was reassured that there were 2 of them and no scales. My hair had returned to its usual brunette tones. I counted my fingers and checked between my toes. All seemed, well, pretty normal. I had a pussy instead of a tail, so I was satisfied. My mind felt hazy, so I decided to journal about my rather epic lucid dreaming experience later. I drained the bath. The sound of gurgling plug hole created a whirlpool of dreamy images of Lucas and his flaming sapphires swishing around my mind until they abruptly exited down the drain with a slurp. I exhaled with a sigh, wrapping myself in my robe, yawning and ready to hit the pillow. On Monday morning, I was sat at my desk, catching up on emails, when Lucas strolled into the open plan office, his tawny leather satchel swinging behind him as he shut the door. I fervently pretended to be busy whilst overhearing snippets of his conversation over by the coffee machine. He was chatting about accounts with Gemma, our finance administrator. I heard his footsteps behind me, and the hair at the back of my neck became erect. Ariel, act cool. Like you didn't just have a mega sexy dream about your boss, okay? Ariel, how was your weekend? His voice made me jump. Oh, hi Lucas. Well, I was just relaxing mostly. I went for a dip in the sea. How about yours? Oh, you did? When was that? I think I spotted you. You were like a mermaid splashing out in those waves. My eyes widened and I fought to keep my expression relaxed. He looked back at me with curiosity. Lapis lazuli glints of gold in those eyes. You did? Well, I can't remember what day it was now. I think the full moon spun me out. Yeah, it was a very dreamy weekend. Okay, catch you later, little mermaid. He gave me a cheeky smile and I blushed awkwardly, hiding my face behind my screen until his footsteps disappeared down the corridor. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear the blood coursing through the vessels in my skull. My mind raced, trying to make sense of his casually dropped comments. Could it be possible that he was also lucid dreaming? That we shared the same dream? I never did find out the truth about that dream, by the way, but I wrote it down in vivid detail in the hope that it would bring healing for all the broken hearts out there, also hurting from the frequently understated pain caused by unrequited love. The end. So thank you so much for listening today, and I have one more thing I'd like to tell you about, which is my book, Agent Owl Meeting the Shadow. It's available to buy on Amazon, and it's an erotic vampire romance set in Tokyo, and it's very sexy, mysterious, it's got a bit of mystical intrigue, and yeah, it's a really fun read. So I'd love it if you wanted to buy a copy, and I'm going to be doing these videos every week, so I'm going to write a short piece every week to share with you, and I've got lots of really cool ideas already that I'm really looking forward to sharing. So please tune in again and subscribe to this channel, and really look forward to chatting to you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Mwah. Good night.
Ah, Kinki Ink.